Well, I think that's everything. Oh, you don't have a copy of your IELTS certificate with you?
Yes.
Oh, superstar.
I've got, so which one do you want to see? Like, I've got a collection here, yeah?
You are now listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
IELTS Vocabulary. Now, a while ago, I did a tutorial all about learning vocabulary, and I said it was kind of general based. This one is going to be it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be very IELTS based, very focused on the IELTS writing tasks. We're going to look at not only some easy sentences to memorize, but we're going to look at some collocations and some topic-specific vocabulary. And I'll share with you throughout this tutorial, I will share with you some techniques for you to naturally acquire this vocabulary, and even better, how to move it from your receptive memory to your active memory so you can start using it. So collocations are essential. Vocabulary is going to be 25% of your score, your lexical resource. And collocations, I'm a massive fan of these. I'm pretty certain I was one of the first to be ranting about collocations, especially in the IELTS niche. I've been a big fan of these since 2014. And the reason is because they help you not only to sound more coherent, but if you're using a collocation and maybe it's a longer one, then the grammatical risk involved is significantly reduced, because a collocation is a sequence of words or terms that occur more often than would be expected by chance. So if you're using these, not only is your grammar score going to be increased, because there's less chance of you making a grammar mistake if you're using a set pattern of 4 or 5 words, but also you're going to be more coherent and it's going to be more accurate as well. So they also make it easier to read, and it's also easier to learn. Why are they easier to learn? Because if you learn the term, you can invoke this idea of chunks. So you learn noise pollution instead of pollution, and then next week noise. You get 2 for the price of 1, basically. Or as they say in retail, bog off, which is buy one get one free, or get the other free. And as I said before, you improve your fluency, makes your writing and even your speaking easier to follow. They improve cohesion, and it's more efficient. It's a more efficient way of learning. How do we get these collocations? Active reading. So when you're reading through some academic literature or some news, get into the habit of circling or copying and pasting these collocations, especially if you're seeing, these groups of words. If you're seeing certain groups of words used together more frequently, more than likely you've stumbled across a collocation. Write it down and try and use it in the next essay that you write. Let's move on to some very valuable, very practical sentences that you can memorize and help you score higher. Now, these sentences come from my early teaching experience. Nowadays, we've upgraded some of these sentences to the C2 template and given you these as a guide to get started. The C2 template ones are more sophisticated because they've got C2 vocabulary in. C2 basically equates to band 9. It's the Cambridge Board of Examinations way of language learning, the CEFR, the Common European Framework for Languages. And Cambridge was a big component, big contributor in this. They helped organize the whole structure. And it's a C2 is the equivalent of around band 8, band 9. So if you're using sentences that have band 9 vocabulary in, obviously your chances of scoring band 9 are going to be drastically increased. Now, these sentences are still valid. They are very useful. They're probably more straightforward to learn, and basically you can memorize these sentences and then interchange it and move in, move out the vocabulary depending on the essay question. For example, the issue of X in the West, in African countries, has grown in importance over the past few decades. Okay? And now we can change it. We can say the issue of pollution in Scotland has fallen in importance over the past few years, over the past few centuries. You see? Now with that structure, with that sentence structure, once it's memorized, all I have to do is move out the verbs, the nouns, and the time frame, and it's quite versatile. The issue of climate change in African countries has grown in importance over the past few years, over the past few months, over the past few minutes. Okay? Obviously, it has to be relevant to the question and it has to make sense. Another useful phrase, income, for example, X, or major world issue, income equality, AIDS, pollution, is one of the most dangerous problems facing lesser developed nations today. Okay? And we can just reverse that. Technological disruption is one of the most exciting opportunities facing developed nations today. So in this structure, we have like the subject is one of the most something facing XYZ nations today, facing developed nations, facing rich nations, facing lesser developed nations, facing poorer nations today, tomorrow. Okay? So these are kind of quite versatile sentences. And we just learn this structure and then we interchange it depending on the question. Now, another way we can boost our vocabulary is to change the person. So, in one sentence, we could say, however, in my view, this solution is rather controversial and other solutions need to be found. Fine. Another way is, however, from a general point of view, this solution is rather impractical and other solutions need to be found. You see? So we can expand our writing resources, our vocabulary, just by changing the view. And also, this helps us get around the problem of expressing your opinion, because I know a lot of students struggle where to put their opinion, and this way you can mention a viewpoint and it doesn't have to be yours, and then at the end you can say in my view or in my personal opinion. Now, more universal sentences. As I said before, at the beginning, this is what I used to use in the sentence guide. Now it's been upgraded, and now it's much more sophisticated. However, these are still valuable sentences. Number one, it is undeniable that XYZ is one of the most challenging issues in the Western world. We've kind of covered on that before. It is undeniable that climate change, it is undeniable that social media is one of the most challenging issues in the Western world, okay, or one of the most demanding issues. Just make sure that it's relevant. You don't want to say something like something silly that just doesn't make sense. It is undeniable that toilet roll is one of the most challenging issues in the Western world. It's just garbage. Okay, so use it within context. That's what I'm saying. There are also studies being performed on a world level to discover the source of these important problems. I once read an essay that was just full of these sentences. That is as copy-paste as it gets. It's a little bit empty. So a higher level student would adapt this sentence. Okay? It's a shortcut. Do not rely on these sentences. There are also studies being performed on a world level to discover the source of these important problems. If I see an essay with this kind of sentence, I'll say it's empty and it needs to be adapted to the topic. However, if you're desperate and you're not hitting the word count, a sentence like that is grammatically perfect. You memorize it, you put it in, you're boosting your word count, and you're going to pick up some points. But just remember, do not rely on these sentences. To make it more unique to your topic, you have to adapt it. For example, there are also studies being performed on a world level to discover the source of these important problems affecting Scotland at the moment, or having the source of these important problems having an impact on pollution nowadays. Okay? Just make it relevant to the topic, because I can put that in an essay about nuclear war, pollution, climate change, gender equality, whatever, and it's relevant, but we don't want to rely on sentences like that. So take it with a grain of salt. Okay? One solution proposed by the insert global organization is to suggest your solution. Okay? One solution proposed by the World Trade Organization is to increase tariffs, increase taxes, whatever. All right, so write down those sentences, play with them, adapt them, and they will help your essay. Some more useful sentences. It is fairly easy to comprehend the arguments why this proposal has been made. Comma, for example, or full stop, for example. Again, it is a little bit empty, so use it with caution. Next one. There would be at least two facets to this proposal. Of course, you use it in context. For example, you've proposed a solution to increase taxes. There would be at least two facets to this proposal, comma. Firstly, governments could increase taxes, could increase retail taxes, full stop. Secondly, they could also increase income taxes. I don't know. All right, so just make sure that you're going to explain the two facets of this proposal if you're going to use that sentence. Next one. There is also, however, a strong argument not to implement this proposal. So again, I feel a sense of responsibility when I'm giving you these sentences. Use them with caution. Do not just sprinkle them into your essay. Just make sure that they are in a coherent fashion. They are useful to copy paste into your essay. But as I said, and I'll say, this must be the 8th time I've said it, use it with caution, use it with context, and if possible, adapt it to your essay topic. I would not be a competent English teacher if I just gave you this list of phrases and then jumped on my bike and went home. Okay, so I'm saying use them with caution. Now, one final method which I found pretty useful for my own language acquisition is to use TED Talks. TED Talks are fantastic because not only are you going to hear this academic vocabulary, you're going to hear it in context, and you can also read the subtitles, listen to the audio, so you're going to hear the pronunciation, and it's just a very effective, powerful way. And also, it's a little bit less intense than writing an essay. So if you are feeling a little bit mentally exhausted, go to TED Talks rather than going to YouTube and going down the YouTube rabbit hole. At least with TED Talks, you're getting IELTS vocabulary, and you're filling your brain with ideas, which is definitely useful for the writing exam. So that's everything from me. Remember, we have the IELTS Podcast newsletter where you can get more advice, full tutorials, full lists, full sentences, sample essays, and just more resources to help you pass. And also we've got the Jump to Band 7 or It's Free IELTS course. Lots of students have been using that to get to Band 8 or 9. Also, students use it to get to Band 6 if they need to. And with this course, you get feedback, you get guidance, you get motivation, and it just makes the whole process much more enjoyable. And you'll see yourself progressing. And once you get that sense of progression, that sense of improvement, it's much easier to keep going. You know, you're not alone struggling. You got the examiner, you've got our tutors looking over your shoulder, myself included, guiding you and helping you to get to that next level. And that's what we enjoy doing. So have a great day, and I wish you the best with your IELTS preparation. Good luck.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.